everybody. My name is Fred Rode. I'm the founder of Heavy Chef, and it's an absolute honor to be here tonight and welcoming our panelists, Dineshrie, Lesley, and Zinhle, who is emceeing tonight and who's going to be fielding our two illustrious speakers with some challenging but appropriate questions tonight, and hopefully eliciting some thoughtful and engaging discourse. We do want to invite those of you in the audience to think of questions that you would like to ask our speakers. It's not often that you get the unfettered access to such luminaries as Dineshrie and Lesley as you do tonight, so do use the opportunity. And I think not just about running events, but also business in general and projecting your message, creating a brand, conveying your marketing strategy, and building the entity that is your creative exercise. And let me just say as well that we are going to be judging you on the strength of your questions. So
No
actually, I'm being serious. I'm going to judge you on your questions because with that in mind, the best question of tonight is going to receive a prize. Okay, so we actually are going to judge you on your questions. So don't be stupid about your questions. So the best question of this evening is going to, and Zinhle, you're not allowed to win this, by the way. So
Can we win
sorry,
for the best answer?
yeah, you are both disqualified. You're all disqualified from winning. But in this bag over here, there is a very cool prize. So we have 2 books, and we have a notebook from Zero, as well as a bottle of beauty bullets, courtesy of Sally Ann Creed, which is essentially a...
Beauty bullets. Can I just take those out?
Yeah, you can if you want. Do you want to have a look?
No.
So it's a little
I just wanna keep
jar
I
of
need the
beauty bullets. It's worth about $500.
So
and
the girls in the room.
it will make you beautiful. Whether you're a girl or a guy, it doesn't matter. God knows I need some of those good things. And this beautiful branded Heavy Chef bag. It's for those of you who like the Woolworths bags and have like a cupboard or a drawer full of those freaking bags. It's a bit of a problem for most people. But yeah, jokes aside, I just want to welcome everybody here. It's so good to see a crowd again, audience in the wild, connecting in real life, IRL, and see, I'm also cool. And to be able to actually meet and engage and interact and ask questions and forge relationships and foster connections for the future, because that's how this works. That's how business works. That's how we build for the future. And it's not behind screens. It's actually, out in the wild. Sorry for those of you who are on Instagram thinking, shit, I should be there. But, next time. So, I just want to honor you for coming out and being here and offering your time and your attention to this valuable discussion. So just a quick overview of Heavy Chef. We are a learning platform for entrepreneurs. Our core belief is that entrepreneurs can change the world for the better. There's a lot of systemic problems and a lot of very specific problems in society, and we feel we have a fervent belief that entrepreneurs have the ability to affect change faster and more efficiently than any other sector in society. So that's you guys. And it's these people in the room, it's these people on stage that are actually making the big steps forward that if we wait for top-down change, it might take a while, right? So this is the bottom-up revolution that we're looking at, and it's a peaceful revolution. It's a disruptive revolution. It's an innovative revolution, and it includes the conversations that we have tonight. So it's really, really important. I just quickly want to honor the partners that we have on board that have come along for the ride, that have supported Heavy Chef right from the beginning. So we're in Workshop 17, which is the stunning venue that you find yourself in. As a Heavy Chef member, if you do decide to become a Heavy Chef member, or if you are already one, you do have access to a redonkulous discount on your Workshop 17 hot desking deal, which is normally close to 3,000 Rand. You get it for 600 Rand through Heavy Chef. So that's a benefit of being part of Heavy Chef. Also Zero, which is a long-time supporter of small business in South Africa. You get 50% off if you go through Heavy Chef, as well as PayFast has been a long-time supporter. Zinhle, Capitalize, where you get one-click financing for your business through a whole range of different providers. And also Baxberg and Celia and Creed and CBD, the Good Leaf CBD waters that some of you are drinking. It is infused with CBD, with marijuana. It will not get you high, just in case you're wondering. I saw some of you in the corner taking 3 or 4 or 5 in a row.
I hope that's what we've got.
It might actually get you high if you keep on going, but let me know. And then
We've got.
So Fruit as well is also a long-time supporter of Heavy Chef. They provide us with all the tasty and nourishing goodness in the back there, which also, by the way, the Baker brothers, the people that founded Surf Fruit, just have an amazing entrepreneurial story of their own. So this whole structure, the ecosystem, we were talking about ecosystems earlier, is really just about entrepreneurs supporting each other and feeding back into the community. So yeah, and I think I just want to honor the people on stage here who are really giving back to the community and supporting the community. Lesley is an old friend of mine, let's just say. She's not old, let's just put it out there. She's an old friend of mine. And we've been around the block together. I do recall Lesley when Colourworks, or now Happy Friday, was a tiny little studio in Newlands, and I provided her with her first employee, a hooligan designer called Jeff, who's a friend of mine. And Lesley has gone on to great things to create one of the best agencies in the country, who's overseen events of huge proportions with big brands like Old Mutual and some of the blue chip companies in the country. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. And then Dineshrie is a chartered accountant. We met at Psycho last year in the top 35 under 35. Also a huge supporter of the entrepreneur community in this country, and who is just astounding at teaching people how to project their message, how to convey their message, craft their message, and consult to people who want to grow their business. So we're very excited about our 2 speakers. And then Zinhle, I mean, I don't know, I can't speak enough about how awesome she is, but she also sits on the Heavy Chef board and is just so passionate about this environment and helping out with the community. So I'm going to hand over to my illustrious colleague over here, and I just hope that everybody sticks around afterwards, engages, interacts, gets to meet some new people, and has some fun.
Good evening to you all. I'm so happy and excited to finally be in Cape Town, because we had 2 events in Johannesburg. So this is officially our first event for 2023 in Cape Town. Yay! So thank you all for making it. It is indeed great to see you all. I know I mingled around the crowd earlier, and there are some people that are joining us for the very first time. If you can shyly wave your hand so we can see you. Yay, actually proudly. Wow. Welcome to everyone who's joining us for the first time. It's lovely to see you. We hope to see you again throughout our next event. Join our community, our heavy chefs tonight. We've got their recipes online, including some of our heavy chefs that are actually in the crowd. So please do check that out when you get an opportunity. But I wanted to bring us back to tonight's event. We're speaking everything around event planning. And I think we need to ask the question why events are so important. And I'm going to share a personal story. So 3 years back, I was in Johannesburg, and Heavy Chef was hosting an event at the Discovery Building. And I was like, who are these Heavy Chef people? Let me go check them out. And honestly, what attracted me to joining Heavy Chef was that it was a community for everyone. So I wasn't an entrepreneur, but it welcomed entrepreneurs, people who were entrepreneurially curious, people that wanted to be around entrepreneurs. So the environment was very welcoming. And I think for me personally, events are spaces for you to connect with other people, like-minded people. And so this is why it's so fantastic to be here tonight with everyone, sharing sort of the same things. And if you guys haven't checked out our Heavy Chef Foundation report on the future of entrepreneurs, you definitely need to download that, because we also speak about the importance of community and why it's so important for entrepreneurs to come together at events like these. But yeah, that's just an intro of why we're here tonight. So Lesley and Dineshrie, if we can just get right into it. We kind of want to know, we gathered here today, why is it so important to have events like these, and what role do events like these play for entrepreneurs? So I'll just start off with Lesley and then Dineshrie, if you can add on.
I think this is absolutely vital for the entrepreneur community. Apart from running my Happy Friday agency that I have done for 25 years, I also run a social enterprise called Over the Rainbow. And it's so beautiful to be here, and exactly what Fred said earlier. You know, this is about connecting. This is about networking. We can't build a empire from behind our desks. You've got to get out there, and the power of the network and meeting people. So what you've just done here, you know, when introducing yourselves to each other, this is what tonight is all about. And this is what going to events is all about, making those connections. I would never be where I am in my business life today if I hadn't got out there, put myself out there. And sometimes it's a pain. You know, you'd rather be at home with your TV or your iPad or your phone, but you've got to get out there and meet people, because the power of your network is actually what's going to drive your success in life and in your businesses and in your entrepreneurial journey.
I'm going to get a little bit scientific with my answer. When it comes to events, you have to figure out why events are important. And it really comes down to what makes us tick as human beings. And human beings thrive on social aspects. We are very social by nature. I'll never forget that time when I went to Cradle of Humankind. I don't know if anyone has been. Raise your hands if you have. Do you remember this plaque right at the beginning? And it says the 9 things that make us human being. And one of them is our ability for complex communication. And the second one is our ability to live and work with other people. And I think the past 3 years has proven to us that we can have online meetings and we can get really fancy with our digital technology, but nothing takes away this face-to-face interaction where you're actually meeting someone, because you're bringing in that human aspect of meeting other people. And from a primitive humankind perspective, human beings came together to figure out how to preserve and protect humankind, what we need to do to help each other grow and survive and thrive. And that's why events like this is important, because if we fast forward all these thousands of years later, we still have that foundation of living that's needing to be solved. Is how do you, me, and the person next to you come together and figure out what it is that you do, what is it that person next to you does, and how can you serve each other? And events is just that wonderful opportunity of bringing people together. You're able to use your complex communication to serve each other, and you're able to build your networks and expand it into areas that you wouldn't have even thought about sitting in your office behind a computer. So welcome to tonight's event, and I'm glad that you did come out, because events like this is completely invaluable. If I look at all the events that I've attended in my career as an entrepreneur, I can think of that one person that I met, or that one gem of wisdom that someone said, and it was that one thing that I walked home with, and it just shifted my thinking, it shifted the way I acted and behaved. And that wouldn't have happened if I didn't go out for that event. And that's why events are important.
Sure. Wow. Those two answers are absolutely brilliant. And with that, given your 2 answers, if we want to capture that essence of connectedness and going back to human nature's ability to really want to connect, how does one tap into that in terms of their strategy when you're trying to plan an event like this? what are the core essence that inform a strategy for planning an event? And we can start with either speaker.
We always used to make sure that there were 3 things that we ensured every event had. One is got to be education. You want to learn something here tonight. The other thing is there's going to be some entertainment. I mean, Fred's such a great entertainment. Just you the entertainment, Fred. But we also want to entertain you. But also we want to engage. And you know, with every event that we designed, we made sure that those 3 things, we don't want this to be a one-way conversation. We want you to engage with us. So with every event, but it has to be strategic. So you have to decide at the beginning of your event, what are my objectives? What do I want to portray tonight? Is it a launch? Is it a fun evening? Is it a thank you? Is it a sales conference? What is the reason for having that event? And all the elements in that event have got to be designed for that objective. So I know that one of the things that we were, I was reading about the other day is about bringing the values of a company into the event. But that's also about the values of the staff, the values of the people that are actually engaging with the people at the event. So make sure that you're very clear on your objective. What are my reasons for holding this event? And then make sure that you bring in those 3 elements of entertainment, engagement, and education. And those are the ways that the audience can connect, not only with your brand, not only with your event, but then also with landing for you, the company, landing the actual reason that you want to put that event on.
I'm going to give a different answer. And the answer is going to be complementing yours, but also it's going to be enlightening as well. So Fred introduced me as a chartered accountant. I'm also a fellow chartered management accountant. I know, and I'm in the business of communication and teaching people how to speak in public. And when I first started my business and started doing events on my own, I was textbook strategy of how to do events. I was textbook on when I do events, it needs to have a certain theme, and it needs to be all swish and jazzed up, and it has to have certain look and feel, and it has to be done in a certain place. And I realized over these years that, whilst that is all good, at the heart of it is meeting a need. And it's not just my need. My need might be, I want to expand my business, I want to reach more audiences, and that's good. But what I've realized now, I need to switch my mindset as to where's my audience at, what is their need, and why should they get up out of their cars, out of their houses, dress up for that evening and come out? What need am I fulfilling for them? And I've started doing events very differently and turning the strategy towards my audience and putting the audience first. And that firstly goes to understanding my audience, what really is their wants, their challenges, their obstacles, their desires. And if my event can fulfill that, then it's actually a win-win, because they are meeting their need, and on the converse, I'm also being able to build my market and get more referrals and word of mouth. So I've thrown away my textbook on what strategy of event planning is, and I've realized I must just listen to my audience and let that drive the theme of my events.
Sure. Those answers actually complement each other very well. As you put it, basically identifying a need and looking at practically what are you serving the community that you're hosting an event with. And I love the fact that you use Heavy Chef as an example. This is like a masterclass where we are providing an educational experience. And with that being said, before I ask the next question, I do want to invite you guys to actually ask questions, because tonight is, we already have a question. I'm coming directly to you, sir.
What's the prize?
Tonight is about you guys and the opportunity to directly engage with our heavy chefs tonight and ask them questions as they relate to your business all the current struggles that you have. So I'm just going to ask for a mic, there's a mic right behind you, sir. So if you can just introduce yourself, and then you can direct the question to anyone.
Hopefully that wasn't too fast.
Perfect timing.
Loved what you had to say about, looking at it the other way and what your audience wants and needs. So I'm just wondering, how do you figure that out? How do you... my name is Leo.
Hi, Leo. What I have started doing is doing questionnaires. So I will put out an event. I use an online platform. You can use any one that you use. I have preference to one that's called Typeform. It creates online questionnaires. And so when a person has signed up for an event, I just do a random 3 to 5 questions to try to understand the individual. I make the questions as high level and as easy as possible, but that insight allows me to understand them. So it's questions like, what attracted you to this event? What are you looking to achieve out of this? Where are you in your business right now? If there's one thing that could drive your business forward, what would that be? And the responses that I get even before I meet them at that event is profound. I would not have got that opportunity if I didn't do that questionnaire. If I don't do that, then what I tend to do is, I've done this at a previous event, I'd have slips of papers in the door. I'd say, just tell me something about yourself, or you can make it a bit more fancy on any technology or platform where they can send some messaging to a WhatsApp group. And you just get feedback, and that feedback for me is vital. So I'm often tailoring my events to the audience that is there. I'll give you an example. I've done an event last week, and that same talk, I've done it with a different audience this week. But because of the feedback that I've got from the individuals last week and this week, I actually did this week's event slightly differently, because I knew that the mix of people, their needs and where they were in their career was slightly different. So I pitched the content differently. And those are things that you could do.
The reason I'm asking the question is also for the prize. So I'm just marketing myself there. So my name is Mangoba. I run an agency called Tape, which focuses on underrepresented creatives coming from the hood. So my question is more around inclusivity in a sense as well. So would you say, when you are creating these events, are they for everyone? And how would you define inclusivity? Does it accommodate people from all walks of life? So disability and so forth and so forth. Cool.
When I first started, and I always go back because it's so interesting, I'm in this now for 13 years, and it's so interesting to look at how I used to do the work that I'm doing now versus how I'm doing it, or how I used to do it then versus now. And if someone had to ask me who's my target audience, I'd say everyone who wants to learn how to speak. But you can't serve everyone. And that's what I realized. So I had to really dig deep and figure out, what does this person look like? Where they're working? How old are they? What type of hobbies do they have? What are they doing on the weekends? What social apps are they on? What time of the day are they working? How, in ways, are they like me or dislike me? In what ways are they comparing to me where I was at their stage? And when I put that picture together, I realized I'm not targeting everyone. I'm targeting, again, it comes back to that need. It comes back to that need or the challenge or the phase of their life where they feeling that they needing some sort of kick to drive them forward. And once I was very clear on that, my messaging just changed. And you can do this, if you go back to my social media post 3 years ago versus now, completely different. Because now it's targeted. Now it's worded in a way, and it's got certain captions on it that's driving to my ideal target.
I also think that you can be quite practical with, if you know that your audience is going to be diverse, you also have to think about the food. You have to think about the music. You have to think about the language. You have to think about very practical things. So there's no point in me putting on an entrepreneurial event and I'm aiming it at the township and I'm going to, serve fancy food and, use the wrong, I can say fancy food, but you know what I mean? I've got to make sure that what I'm doing, I'm choosing appropriately. And I think there's some practical things that you can do. And often when we do have events for township entrepreneurs, we make sure that I have somebody that can speak the language. And we have, when you speak to somebody in their own language, you speak to their heart. So there are practical things that you can do as well at events. And when we did corporate events, we also made sure that diversity and inclusion is such an important part of the entire experience that everybody is coming to.
I want to add to that. I so agree on the music, by the way. And as an event organizer, you need to be able to read the crowd. I will never forget this one event. I was told that it was corporate individuals. And so, of course, I dressed up in corporate suit, expecting everyone else to be in corporate suit, and they weren't. They were there in their denims. They were there in their, well, not shorts. Wasn't too casual. But they were definitely much more dressed down than I was. And as I started speaking, I could feel this tenseness, this almost like this barrier between myself and them, because I'm dressed differently. And it didn't take me long to figure that out. 10 minutes later, I just said, oh, hang on a bit, this jacket is just too hot. So I just took out my jacket, and the moment I did that, it was like a different feel. I'm part of them, I'm part of this crowd. And so subtle things like dress, like music, the layout, how you are addressing it, the words that you use, the examples that you use, you can't have you also need to figure out age group, which is also interesting. I won't forget, I was using an example of a movie. I don't even want to try it right now. and that movie is something I grew up with. And when I shared that example with everyone else in the audience, they're like, I didn't watch that movie. What movie is that? So it's very interesting to understand your audience and also read the audience and then change your examples accordingly to make sure that everyone is part of that group. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely love both of your answers. And if I may add, I think how we've achieved it with Heavy Chef is diversifying the definition of what an entrepreneur is. So we don't say like you have to have a business that's generating this much profit for you to be part of our community. We welcome people that are curious about entrepreneurship, people that want to be surrounded by entrepreneurs, people that are entrepreneurs within corporate. So again, boiling down to what Lesley shared earlier, it is about knowing your audience well enough. And
I wanted to ask, because I feel we're looking at event organizing from the perspective of us being the steering on that particular event. I'll give you an example. Some guys from other countries approached me because I'm in the media industry. So my name is Busiso Liberty Kumalo, and I'm from the Mtungwa Media. We produce the SA Business Journal. So some guys approached me and said they wanted to do a global youth water conference in South Africa. It's got nothing to do with me. I don't even know how things work around water. So I was just going to organize an event and have them do it. So I think maybe in terms of organizing an event without you guys being the steering, you're not going to stand there. Understand? How do you then look at the need vis-a-vis versatility, being versatile, and also okay. So the point was to say, what if the event is on a feedback basis? Because the whole event that these guys were proposing was to say, we want to get a feel of what the Africans think about the water and all that, and then they're going to feed it back to the United Nations. Now, I wasn't going to be there. You guys weren't going to be there. How do you then handle that? That's my question. Thank you.
So, Spusi, so I'm going to summarize your question. What you're basically asking is if you're playing a facilitation role, meaning you're not the direct person at the event, but you're just a mediator in terms of their goals, and basically the event is on a feedback basis. I'm not sure who would like to tackle the question.
Okay. You want to do? Yeah.
I love facilitations, firstly. But the key thing with that is that you have to be very clear as to what the outcome of that facilitation is. Is it a brainstorming facilitation? Are you getting people together so that by the end of a certain time period, you're just getting ideas together? That's a brainstorming. Is a facilitation for problem solving? So you're getting people together and you're having certain individuals in the room with a panel together, and there's a question or a statement that everyone has to solve for, and no one is leaving until you solved for that? Or is it a facilitation to make a decision? So you've been through the brainstorm, you've went through some ideas to how to solve the problem, but now a decision has to be made. Sometimes all three happen in one session. But I feel that a lot of people make the mistake of thinking that facilitation is just a one black and white type event, when actually it could be any one of the three or all three in one event. So that would be my feedback. You have to be very clear. And then depending on what type of facilitation it is, the facilitator as a skill set has to chair that meeting very differently.
Sorry.
But that might go into a different direction, which might not be tonight's event. So that's just to answer your question.
Lesley.
But it could also be a focus group where you're actually just getting feedback on the the water, I think is what you said. So you could have a focus group and then getting feedback from various people, and that is then the facilitator's job to make sure that they get all that feedback, collate that, and feed that back to the client if it is a focus group.
And that focus group would be like a brainstorming session.
Just to ask both of you to add on, he touched on the fact that he's not familiar with the industry when it comes to water. So how do you pull off an event when it's not something you've got expertise in?
You bring in expertise. You find that person that can co-present with you, and you bring them into your event.
Not necessarily co-present. I'm at the, what do you call it, behind the scenes. I've just been, because, for example, I'm in media, so they assume that with media you can facilitate such. So I don't want to be even talking on the mic like this. I'm behind the scenes, making sure that the right guys do it. But now, how does that then work around? Sorry for jumping in.
Okay, so I'm guessing you're managing the event from when you say, okay, so I'm guessing it's not facilitation, it's more like you being put in charge of the project that will happen. Yeah, and then, okay, I don't know if you've got additional advice on that.
So now that you know the difference between facilitations, you go and find the person to MC it, to be the facilitator, to manage that event for you. And if you need to bring in certain panelists, it's all about the speakers that you bring in. So you need to be the project manager to bring through all these individuals into that room. That's my answer to that.
Yeah, and Sly, having worked with you as well, I think it is important that you do speak to an event manager, somebody who really does know what they're doing. It's a monkey puzzle. There are, there's the venue, there's the parking, there are all sorts of things that need to get done. And if this isn't your core strength, an event has got a lot of moving parts. So you've got to be quite careful to make sure that you get it right, because the last thing that you want is a whole lot of people coming to something and you've forgotten about this, or you've left that out, or it's not slick, because you want that experience to be a good one. So if it's not your core strength, get help.
My name is Lesley Waterkeyn. Firstly, I'd like to say it's so great to see the diversity in the stage, and the fact that all of you are women, it's amazing. So I hear you giving us these, tools on how to organize these amazing events, but it'll be ignorant of us to ignore the finances of it, especially with inflation happening in South Africa right now. So how do you then, provide the need to your audience without breaking their arm and a leg? So how do you deal with financial constraints when you trying to organize an event, because you want to attract people as well? And obviously, the cheaper it is, obviously there's more people who are gonna come, and you don't want to be cheap because you also want to make some money out of it. We are not Jesus here. We're trying to make money as well. So then how do you deal with those financial constraints?
It's actually such a great question, if you don't mind. I actually deal with this all the time, and it is such a great question, because how do you cost that event? You want the people to come, but you also can't do it for free. I totally get that. And there are ways of overcoming that. So the one is to find a sponsor. You know, just as Fred and his team have gone out and partnered with the Workshop 17, partnered with various brands, but find somebody that's will buy into what's in your heart as well. So if you're arranging an event around food, find a food sponsor. If you're arranging an event around entrepreneurship, find Zero is a perfect entrepreneur sponsor, because entrepreneurs need a financial system. So find somebody that can help sponsor your event so that you can bring the ticket prices down. But I think it's also what we said earlier around knowing your audience. Sometimes you'll just get a gut feel that, you know, is 500 Rand going to be too much? Is 250 Rand going to be the right? Is 1,000 Rand going to be? And often I just end up trusting my gut. What is the value that you're going to give these people at your event? And what do you think that they will pay for that? And that is just through research, through knowing your audience, through really just understanding. And if the value is what you're going to deliver on the night, then you can charge a premium price. If it's just a, you know, a fun get-together or a Women's Day event or whatever the case may be, then I would say align yourself with sponsors so you can create a win-win, so your ticket price doesn't necessarily have to be too high. Depends on what you're trying to achieve. So that's always the number one thing. What is my objective? What am I trying to achieve? And then how can I align my whole event around that?
Do you want the finance answer? Or do you want the non-finance answer?
Thank you.
I'll give you both. So yes, you're right. You'd need to have a certain amount of resources. Supplement the word finances with resources, because finance is one of the resources. And then you need to change your assumptions about what makes for an eventful, a successful event. I used to think that having a high amount of finance is going to make my event more successful. And then I learned a technique of delayering my assumptions and beliefs about an event. And this is something very useful that you could do. For whatever event that you have planned for right now, make a list of assumptions or beliefs that you have about your audience or what's going to make that event successful. Maybe you believe or have an assumption that they can pay only this amount. Maybe you have an assumption that this is the maximum amount of funding that you have available. Maybe you have an assumption that you need X amount to make it successful. But what if you break that assumption? And what if you say, what if I only have this amount of resources available? How do you become resourceful around the situation? And when you ask a question differently, I promise you, with the brainstorming session with yourself, that strategy that we were talking about, you'll come up with so much more answers that has nothing to do with finance. And you'll actually find the partner to collaborate with. You will find another person to co-host with. You will find a sponsor to come up with this. You'll find another way to run this event successfully, and you'll learn. And you'll come up with new assumptions that's going to break through a new kind of event for your audience.
That's definitely a different way of thinking, like demystifying the idea around finances, broadening the idea of resources, looking at how we can partner up with other partners that are interested in the event. Please.
Okay, hi everybody. My name is Akona Shinga. Ndingumashinga umablosi undelubukisa umadiba udimba uduma umseleko ozalwa kusibiyo soto babafokazana babiya ngamahlahla thina sibiya ngenkomo.
So for those that don't know, she just introduced us all her clang. No, because in the spirit of diversity, those are all her clang names. It's an introduction to who she is in her essence and her roots and her being.
My question is, you have your plan, right? I believe when you do an event, you start with your marketing plan. You come, how am I going to make this beautiful? How am I going to sell this? And all of that. My question is, how do you get to a room and claim your presence without being undermined as a black woman, first of all, especially in Cape Town? How do you get to a room? Or how do you have your presentation and everything else, you're ready, you are there to present, but how do you fight intimidation when you're there in that room? I think it's something we come across when you go out and ask for sponsors. And can you please come and you are Akona from Kylie Chamakaza. Yes, we see your reference. Baxter, don is there. Eastern Cape, blah, blah, blah. But how do you then make sure that your presence remains in the room without being intimidated as a woman and as a black person?
When I listen to a question like that, and I've been working now in this for, as I said, over 13 years, I help people to overcome their fear of speaking. I help people to stand in front of a group of diverse individuals. And I've heard a subset of that question over and over again. How do I stand in front of a group of exco as a female and state my voice? How do I make my message known in a male-dominated environment? And I can only answer that question through my own experience, because look at me. I also had to deal with that internal voices in my head, and what I realized is that it's actually not them, it's me. I have that opinion about myself that maybe I'm not going to be taken seriously because I'm female. Maybe I'm not going to be taken seriously because I look young. Maybe I'm not going to be taken seriously because I'm a certain different group as other people. And again, it comes down to that internal voices, the assumptions and the belief system that you have. And once you de-layer that and take that away, and you just connect to the individual standing in front of you. I have spoken to groups of people way older than me, way diverse, from people from around the world. And what I've realized over and over and over again is that at the heart of it, if you connect to a need, if you connect to the individual and why they are there, your message comes through, your presence comes through. And they don't actually look at you anymore in terms of your color, your background, your gender, your age. It's just that you are saying something that is connecting to them. And when you connect to that part of yourself, anything can be open for you.
Thank you for that question. And I also think, just to add on to that question, it's important to also remain in community. So as I alluded earlier, I was an attorney working for practice and I wanted to enter this space. And I think people like Fred and the team at Heavy Chef kind of took me on and mentored me through the process to join. So sometimes there are additional resources that you can use in terms of who's available in your community to act like a mentor, as a sponsor, as somebody that can advocate for you through the process, somebody that can introduce you to networks, because it is true, we're structurally facing a lot of inequality in our country, and sometimes the only way to mitigate that is when we, we mentor each other, when we speak about the challenges that we're facing, and that's why we create events like these. Like in Joburg last week, I remember one entrepreneur was speaking about how they're struggling with marketing, and another entrepreneur said to them, I've been through this process, let me help you out. And that's how we bridge gaps. We need to come together as a community and help each other out, because that's the only way we're going to make it through. So if I've got somebody in my network that you need access to, I should be able to be like, let me help you out where I can.
All right, my name is Gax. I'm from Strand. I'm into events organizing. My question is more on the dark side of the event, not the shining in the shining side. What do you do when we are facing challenges on the day of the event, like things they don't go according to plan. Maybe your load shedding just come, or cable theft, or people are not arriving in time, or MC is not delivering. Like how do you do with those challenges as an event organizer? How do you deal with that pressure and with that darkness, and people are expecting the event to go well, but things are not going according to plan? Thank you.
Gus, that's such a great question. And an event is a live, part of your marketing, but it's live. And those things do happen. And, we live in a country, as you say, with load shedding and where drama happens. And unfortunately, as the saying goes, shit happens. But I think it is up to the event manager to stay calm, to communicate to the audience, and make sure that there is open communication. Because at the end of the day, people do understand that things happen. And as long as it's well communicated, you can, you have a backup plan, or you have a solution, and it is communicated to your audience. So at least your audience are kept in the picture and not wondering what is going on and what has happened. And I think that is absolutely up to the event manager to make sure that it, runs smoothly.
I want to talk to three things on that. The first one is the power of negative thinking. There's power of positive thinking, but I believe in the power of negative thinking, and that's before you start an event. Make a list of everything that can go wrong. Load sheddings, PowerPoints not working, technology glitches, speakers are late, MC, whatever you had said, is not there on time. And you have a backup plan for that. And I really believe in having a backup plan. And then when those days come, and those days will come. Second point, write this down. Mentally, I have attracted this audience because I'm ready to handle it. When things go wrong and those challenges do happen, you've attracted that because mentally you're ready to handle it. And so you need to, number three, calm yourself down, because your mind can either ask a question or make a statement. You now need to figure out, are you asking an emotional hijack type question or statement, or is it a question or statement that's going to get you out of that situation? An emotionally hijacked statement or question sounds like this: oh no, this is happening. This is terrible. What am I going to do? Why is this person late? I can't believe this is happening. When you ask emotional questions and statements or say things like that, it sparks your mind into more emotional thinking. Your brain literally gets, it's a term. Your amygdala gets flooded with, that's a part of your brain that deals with emotions, and it gets flooded with all this emotional thinking. It doesn't allow your rational brain to think clearly. So when those moments happen, number one, have the backup plan. Hopefully your backup plan will help you. Number two, mentally you've attracted this. Then number three, you need to calm down and ask yourself a different question, or say something differently. So when things go wrong for me, and I've had this, I've been ready for my event, and then my generator battery suddenly dies 5 minutes before I'm about to start, and I'm in load shedding. It has happened. But when that happens, I say things to myself: get this under control, Dineshrie. Find a way to make this work. What other backups do I have? So by going to that rational question or statement, it keeps me centered, it keeps me calm, and I'm able to get through that issue.
Okay, my name is Angie. I am a recovering intrapreneur, becoming an entrepreneur.
Well done.
By my accent, you probably think I'm British, but I'm British Jamaican, so I'm mixed. And I have really struggled in the last 3 years with connection and community with the pandemic. So my question to you as a panel is, what are your thoughts on the future of events for online versus in person?
I honestly think that it's going to have to be a hybrid approach. I don't think the online events are going to go away in a hurry. I think people have become lazy. And, you know, that's very unfortunate. And, you know, so many of my staff, you know, they don't want to come into the office, and it takes time in the car and petrol and, you know, one excuse after the other. So I do think we're going to have to get used to these hybrid events. But I absolutely, categorically can say, you cannot get this online. And that is why these kind of things have become so important. And, you know, perhaps before COVID, we were spoilt. And now I believe that we value this more, because when something is taken away from you, you start to, you know, crave that. And I think that events now, I've seen in my agency, they are crazy busy with putting on events. And everybody is craving this, you know, interaction and getting together again. And I hope that it doesn't, you know, become sort of overloaded. And I think that, once again, just getting back to, don't have an event for the sake of having an event. And if it can be a hybrid event, and it can be something that you can relay your message online, then absolutely, I think that can still work. But if it's an event that, you know, relies on connections, like these entrepreneurial events, like networking events, then these are so valuable, and they will always remain.
I want to add to that. I think that you could look at that answer in terms of your horizon. How far forward are you looking? So certainly in the next 1 to 2 years, hybrid events will be the way to go. And it also depends on what type of event you're running and whether or not it's more conducive to a face-to-face versus online. I mean, I was watching the news this week. Fashion Week has gone metaverse for the 2nd year running. And that's happening right now. And so long term, I think that when technology is available, it is freely available, or not freely available, it's more affordable, then those type of events might run. But again, it depends on what your objective is and your outcome, and does it meet the needs of your audience? Is it more conducive to that type of branding that you want to do? Whatever that is going to be in the long term, you and me as entrepreneurs is going to have so much more options to work with. It's not how it was pre-pandemic, which is face-to-face. You are going to have more tools. And that means you and I as entrepreneurs, there's a responsibility to be aware of what is actually happening with other events. And it's this borrowing brilliance approach. Did you read that book? Borrowing brilliance. It's about taking an idea from some other industry, changing and tweaking the content and the context of it, and making it more relevant for yourself, in a nutshell. But read the book. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Lesley Waterkeyn, and my question is based on organizing fundraisers. So I'm actually hosting a pop-up cinema tomorrow as means of fundraising money.
Where about?
It's in Silver Sands, it's in Blue Downs area, opposite Mfuleni, 7:30, and the ticket is 250. Okay. So I've experienced these two problems. I wanted to know, how do I then seal deals with well-known brands with a new unknown brand? Because I have nothing to exchange with them. So how do they then benefit from me? Because it's a fundraiser. So how do I seal deals with big brands? My second question is, how do I make a success of something totally new and different in the area? Because I did research, and a lot of people in my township were saying, we wish all these things were near so that we don't have to go so far to watch a movie or to go and watch a drag show. So now I started hosting these different ideas, but the people are not coming. Even though I heard many people that they are interested in these type of ideas, but now that I host them, they do not come because it's totally new. No one knows about it in this area. So how do I make a success of that?
build it and they will come, and then they don't. You have to really do your marketing. And by the way, you look lovely. So just in terms of your fundraising, what are you fundraising for?
Okay, so I was a student at AFDA in 2021. I did a higher certificate in film, television, and entertainment production. I was paying for my own fees. I was able to pay for half. So now I've got 47,000 Rand that I need to raise.
So you're raising funds for yourself?
I'm raising funds for myself.
Okay. Oh, quite a difficult one. Okay, have you tried, and you're wanting to host events?
Yes.
To raise the money so that you can pay that. Okay.
Yes.
And have you considered things like crowdfunding or different ways of, getting people to crowdfunding online? I mean, what?
I have done that,
Okay.
but obviously that also needs marketing. I need to market people to find the link so they can go and fund it. So that has been difficult for me. And finding brands, some of them do not want to connect with a personal capacity, an individual. They'd rather do it with an NGO or things like that.
And in your actual film community, what have you, who there can potentially help you or see a long-term partnership with you, that they help you now and then you can give back to them in the long term? What kind of ideas have you thought about for that?
I have nothing at the moment because it was really even difficult to find a bursary for my studies before because it's a private institution. So there are not a lot of businesses or companies that would fund in this industry.
You have to create, in my experience, you have to create a win-win somehow here. You have to, you've got to sort of give to receive. It can't just be, so you've got to try and create this win-win. I understand that you're trying to put on these events, but people aren't coming. But you have to ask yourself why. If you've done your research and, is it the time of day that you're doing? Is it you're not doing it at the right time of the month? Sometimes people only have money at the end of the month. So you've got to do your research as to, yes, they want these things, but when do they want them? And what are they prepared to pay for them? So I think you have to dig a little bit deeper into how to create a win-win situation, because it does feel a little bit, you need this money and I totally get it, but what is the value that they can get in return? And I think that's the missing link at the moment is what is the value you can deliver them? People will pay for value. So what is that you can give them in order for you to receive what you need?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that question. Okay, one last question from our heavy chef, Julia. You must check out her recipe on our platform.
Hi everyone, my name is Julia. I'm a professional esports athlete and Twitch streamer. So
my sons would love you.
So I actually had a bit more of a lighthearted question. I've been in the event hosting industry specifically for esports, and we have a fantastic community. It's very similar to any sort of underground culture locally in South Africa. It's always thriving, it's always buzzing, always connecting with people, so it's easy to, once you've infiltrated that community, to get them in a room and engage with something that they love. But something that I found quite interesting is when we started corporatizing our industry a little bit, started working with non-endemic brands, started working with businesses and networks that might not get why we're playing video games 24/7 and we're not 16-year-old boys. There is always a fun part of it where you have to kind of consider the not so fun moments. And I think I just wanted to find out from you guys and maybe humanize the situation a little bit. What has been your pet peeves when hosting an event? What is the absolute no-go zones? And also, what would you say to someone that is looking in hosting events? What is the bare minimum that you need to at least make sure that you got a good event going?
Firstly, I love the question because it's the reality. You can't be hosting an event and expect that everything is going to go well. You're going to have moments when things go wrong. So you need to get some basics in. The basics and the foundation for it is logistics. Get the timing right, get the date right, make sure that your event is not clashing with any other big events, that your audience that you're attracting, they don't have anything else in their world, as an example. You need to make sure that you got your marketing right, your distribution right, to make sure that your messaging is right, your branding is all in sight. You know those things. Let me tell you the two things that make my events where it is right now. Number one is having a running script. I was talking to Lesley about this just beforehand. So when I started my career as a speaker, I started emceeing a lot of events. So I would introduce other individuals. And the success factor of a really, really great MC is an MC who has an awesome running script. 1 minute every to the second, you know how that event is going to be run, what video is going to be playing, what the audience question is going to be, what is happening outside of the room, who needs to be introduced next. That running script makes a world of difference. And now when I run my own events, I actually create very detailed running scripts to work out the two running scripts, one from myself, from the logistics perspective, and one from the perspective of the audience. What is it that they're going to experience? How are they going to feel from this event? And then that's a journey. You learn from that. You'll have a running script that you do, and you think it was amazing at the time, and it probably was, but you can make it even more amazing the next time. So running scripts is the first one, and the second one is feedback. But the timing of the feedback is very critical. So yes, ask for feedback from your audience straight at that event. Don't send out feedback 1 day later at the event. Send out a QR code, because when people go home, load shedding happens, life happens, and they forget your event. So while the event is still prime in their mind, get feedback. But on your part, read that feedback 2 to 3 days, up to 1 week later. You know why? As an event organizer, you put yourself out there. You took some risks, you took some chances, you did a few things that no one else has been doing, and for you to get that feedback too soon might dent you, might just hurt your morale a little bit more than you thought. So running an event, even like this, you can ask Fred as well, your energy state is so high immediately after an event. If you ask for feedback or even read some of that feedback too soon after the event, it can really hurt you, and you might not take it as rationally as you would, say, 2 or 3 days later, a week later. So get the feedback immediately, but read it and analyze it and respond to it a few days later. You're a little bit more calmer, you're a little bit more at peace, and you're able to take in that information because you've also self-reflected on a different level.
If I can just add one thing, and as they say in the property market, location, location, location. And for me, that was the first thing that we always wanted to get right, was the venue. Get your venue right, because a lot of things can fall into place after that. So, you know, where is it going to be? Where is your audience? Is it easy to get there? Is there parking? All of those kind of logistics. So for us, it was always, okay, venue first, and the rest kind of can follow.
Dineshrie and Lesley, in wrapping up, your final words of wisdoms, what are the kind of like key telltale signs of a successfully hosted event? Like, how do you know you've hit the point when it comes to hosting the event? What indicators do you guys usually use to say this is it?
I think once again it goes back to your objectives. You know, what did you set out to achieve? So tonight you've set out to achieve, to host a great event, to share experiences, to share our insights, and, you know, hopefully at the end everybody gets to network. And, you know, for me, if your objectives are clear at the beginning and you can see that that's happening at the event. I mean, if I was, let's say, for example, it was a car launch, you know, we wanted to sell 5 cars. I mean, obviously then that's the objective and that's the, you know, the measure. So understand at the beginning, what are the objectives of this event? And you will very easily be able to tell, you know, as the event manager, if those objectives were met. Obviously using feedback, using, you know, QR codes, feedback, surveys, whatever means you want to do. But I think there's a feeling that you get with events, that you know whether it's been a success or not?
Here's your finance answer.
With the head and the heart.
It comes down to return on investment. It just does. And there's the non-finance element to it. There's return on investment, not just for the event organizer, but also for the person attending. You see, when I used to run events when I first started, it was always, what am I going to get out of it? Because I'm running the event, I'm investing in it. And if this is where you are right now, just give me an eye. Come, I know you're there. Because it is where it is. Now, what I've since learned, and I see your heads bobbing, I know it's there. What I've since learned is that return on investment is on two aspects, from the event organizer as well as from the attendee. So from the event organizer perspective, there's a simple measurement that I use. What has been my results from my event experimentation? Write that down. Because when you write it down that way, every event is an experiment. It is. You'll never run a perfect event. You have run an event, and the next one that you run will be even better than the one that you've run last week. But if you're running an event only once a quarter or once a year, you're going to get experience once a year, and you're going to get feedback once a year. So you need to go and increase that measurement by running more events. Run free events. If you're using a platform for the first time and you're not sure about it, rather just go smaller with that event, a smaller crowd. Get that model right, and then pick up your feedback from all your event experience. That's from the event organizer perspective. And then return on investment from the attendee. I learned a long time ago that people come to an event to fulfill a want, but they leave the event with what they need. I mean, you came here tonight expecting to learn something about events, but you're leaving here with something else that has fulfilled another need that you weren't even aware of. And that's what events do. I've been to plenty of events thinking I'm going to a finance event, but actually what I really needed from that event was that conversation with someone next to me. I needed to listen to a piece of advice which had nothing to do with finance. But when I left, it sparked ideas, it sparked me in a different direction, I made a different decision on something, I expanded my network. I came for what I want, but I left with what I need. And if you can run your events with those two measurements for return on investment, for me, that's what makes events successful.
And on that note, that brings us to the end, but I know you're all waiting in anticipation to see who's the winner of the prize. So I'm going to invite Fred to join us on stage. From my side, thank you so much to our two heavy chefs for really allowing us to pick their minds and gain wisdom from their experience. And also thank you to all of you for taking our time on your Thursday to come join with us, to be in community with us. This is what we're all about. I'll just implore you all to check out our platforms if you are looking for recipes from some of our heavy chefs in the community. You can learn a lot from them. And also visit our website to find out our latest report that speaks on the future of entrepreneurs. We speak about how the metaverse, technology, cloud computing services will affect the futures of entrepreneurs. So, Fred, it's over to you.
Thank you, Zinhle, and thank you, Lesley and Dineshrie. That was amazing. I really enjoyed the juxtaposition of the two personalities, the chartered accountant and the hooligan entrepreneur, sitting next to each other, giving some really fresh perspectives on, I think, one of the most difficult topics that you can really get stuck into. You know, creating events. As Yandise was talking about, is it's really tough. It's really hard. I mean, we've been doing this for a while now, and we still find it difficult. So, I mean, I think events is probably, from a heavy chef perspective, our most important communication and community strategic facet that we deploy on a monthly basis, and we run these up in Johannesburg. We also run them, we're running them in small groups as well. So there are different formats that we run events in, and they're all, the purpose of bringing community members together. It's such a powerful mechanism. So I do hope that all of you have learned a little bit about some of the mechanics, some of the practical bits. As Lesley mentioned, I love that, the head and the heart behind it, the finances, the numbers, but also, the little tactics and the techniques and all of that you can deploy in your own businesses. And I think just from my own personal perspective, just two little elements that I'd love to leave with you. Number one is, if you are looking to run events, Julia, I loved your question. It's, I think one of the critical things that I wanted to share with you is just do them. I know it sounds pretty trite, but with events, it's like, just do them, just get them out there, just start, get going, and iterate. So you learn by doing. It's the heavy chef way, right? Never trust a skinny chef. You eat your own food, right? So the only way to really get to the heart of this is by learning, doing, and sharing, right? You iterate. It's what we've entrepreneurs doing for our entire journeys. And so that's the first thing, is just get started and you learn. Do not be too downtrodden on yourself with the bad feedback that you may get from your first event, because you can do another one. And you take the lessons from the first one and you take it into the second one and you iterate. You're continually turning the dial. So I think that's the first thing. You don't have to have the most successful event in your first shot, right? And the second thing I want to say, and I mean, I guess this gets to a little bit of a point. Dori, I'm going to give the prize out. I know that everybody wants to start drinking wine and having fun and eating beauty bullets. I think the key thing that I've just noticed in time, and as I've grown more experienced with running events, is have a good team. Have people around you that got your back. It doesn't necessarily need to be, a fancy freaking agency like Lesley's, because that's going to cost you a hell of a lot of money. Just saying, that floral shirt didn't pay for itself.
Damn right, actually, it's so.
It's not, it's hand woven by people in a far off country and flown over here. But the truth is that it can be very expensive, but you can also get a team of people that that you can trust, people that have got your back and that are going to work hard and really kind of get together behind you in your cause, right? And I want to encourage you to surround yourself with good people. And with that, I want to say a quick thank you to the Heavy Chef team before I give out the prize. I'm getting there. To Joja, to Randall, to Bronwyn, to Zola, to Jade, to Mo, to Siobonga, to Lucanio, to Yolandi, to Charmaine, to Louis, and to Queen Zinhle on stage. Can we please give a big round of applause? Because she's freaking awesome. Okay, who wants to know the prize? Anyone? Do you want to know the prize? Okay, we're going to get to the prize. So there's a bunch of people that ask questions. Spusiso, Corner, you guys all rock. I thought, Jandisa, your question was great. Angie, also a great question. Julia, you freaking rocked it. But the prize tonight is going to go to Tombi Kaise Lokweni. How to Cost an Event. Please come up and receive your prize. You can give it. Thank you.
She doesn't need to do it. You have to donate them to me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Enjoy the beauty bullets. Okay, everybody. And as they say in the classics, that is a wrap. Everybody, let's go and meet at the bar. Let's have some drinks. Let's get to know each other and engage. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. And thank you to our speakers.
Thank you, Fred.